Welcome to my views and news, another video for you, some news stories. Firstly, in a previous video on Saturday, I reported about the arrival of Sudanese Army Chief Abdul Fattah al-Burhan in Bahir Dar, where he attended Tana Forum, uh, which was attended by some other African leaders too. Some bilateral talks were held as well between Ethiopian delegation led by PM Abiy and Sudanese delegation led by Abdul Fattah al-Burhan. Secondly, Ethiopian State Minister of Finance confirmed just a few minutes ago in a message that war in northern part of Ethiopia is one of the reasons behind difficulties being faced by Ethiopian government to get its loan payment rescheduled. Thirdly, was within the last 24 to 48 hours, we have seen several statements from US, EU, UN officials. All are saying that there must be immediate stopping of war in northern Ethiopia. Some are threatening to impose sanctions on Ethiopian federal government as well. Some are threatening that Eritrean government's involvement should also be tackled. Why is that? Suddenly these US, EU, UN officials have become active. Firstly, viewers, Abdul Fattah al-Burhan, Sudanese army chief, today on Saturday visited Ethiopia. He attended Tana Forum, which was attended by some other African leaders too. He was welcomed by PM Abiy. PM Abiy himself received him in Bahir Dar. After attending Tana Forum's session, bilateral talks were held between Sudan and Ethiopia. Sudan's delegation was led by Abdul Fattah al-Burhan. Ethiopian delegation was led by PM Abiy. But who accompanied PM Abiy? Three Amhara leaders were with PM Abiy. Yilkal Kefale, Amhara region's president. Secondly, Demake Mekonnen, Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Ethiopia. Thirdly, Aganeho Tishagar, Speaker of House of Federation, former President of the Amhara region. So, three people who were with PM Abiy were from Amhara region. Is Ethiopia-Sudan affair Amhara-Sudan affair? Why is that PM did not involve other government officials? Yes, Amhara region shares border with Sudan. Amhara regional government, Sudanese government, they have been involved in dispute over Al-Fashaga. And border crossing, Matimma, is also between Amhara region and Sudan. But what about Benishangal Gumuz region, which shares border with Sudan as well? And there is GERD in BG. There was no representation from BG in these bilateral talks. It means talks mainly focused on Al-Fashaga, firstly. And secondly, I think talks focused on the presence of Tigray fighters and other armed groups on Sudanese soil. Though Sudanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs released a statement. In that statement, there is no mention of the issue of foreign fighters operating on Sudanese soil. In the statement, there is mention of two issues, GERD and border dispute. No mention of third major issue, which is that Sudan is supporting, arming Tigray fighters and other Ethiopian armed groups on its soil. But It's a diplomatic win for PM Abiy that he is trying to mend fractured ties with Sudan. And he succeeded in bringing Abdul Fattah al-Burhan to Amhara region. And he succeeded in making Amhara leaders and al-Burhan sit face to face to talk about the disputed issues. We'll have to wait a few days to see the outcome of this Abdul Fattah al-Burhan's visit to Ethiopia regarding the presence of armed groups, especially Tigray fighters who are working, who are operating in Sudan. Secondly, viewers, Ethiopian government today formally confirmed that war in northern part of Ethiopia is one of the reasons behind difficulties being faced by Ethiopian government to get its loan payment rescheduled. Ethiopian government will have to pay around 700 million US dollars in the next 2 months, but government is facing shortage of foreign exchange reserves. Ethiopian foreign exchange reserves cannot pay the bill of 1 month of imports. This problem which is being faced by the government is being aggravated by the war in Tigray in northern part of Ethiopia. Eyüp Tolina is Ethiopian state finance minister. He is in the US. Like Ahmed Shide is there as well. State bank governor as well. All are holding meetings there with IMF, World Bank officials. Target is that somehow loan payment must be rescheduled. That is what the objective of these meetings is, annual meetings though. And it seems that so far no considerable progress has been made. That is why Eyüp Tolina today spoke, and yesterday other government officials, Ethiopian government officials also said that no, and in a statement as well, Ethiopian government said that no rapid progress was being made regarding the rescheduling of Ethiopian loan payments. So it's clear that creditor countries, which include EU countries, they want to use this leverage which they have over Ethiopian government to convince Ethiopian government to agree to stopping of war, to resume talks with Tigray regional government. That is why they're not making a final decision to reschedule Ethiopian loan payments. I think this issue will be kept pending for a few more days. And maybe in the next few days, we could see some meetings between Ethiopian federal government and Tigray regional government representatives somewhere in Africa. Lastly, viewers, suddenly EU, US, UN officials are becoming active. In the last 48 hours, we have seen several statements, a flurry of statements from EU, US, UN officials. All are calling for immediate stopping of war. Brad Sherman spoke to Joe Biden 2 days ago, around 48 hours ago. Their Tigray war came under discussion, and ways to force Eritrean forces out of Tigray were discussed too. Then we saw a statement from Antony Blinken, US Secretary of State, who told Ethiopian and Eritrean governments to stop the military offensives, and he urged Tigray real government to stop provocations too. After that, Bob Menendez, who is a US Senator for US Senate's Foreign Affairs Committee, spoke. The committee a few months ago approved a motion to impose sanctions on Ethiopian and Eritrean governments. The bill is pending at US Senate. He called for stopping of war. Otherwise, he urged the government, US government, to consider sanctions on those who are involved in using hunger as a weapon of war. Then came statement from Gregory Meeks. He is from US House Foreign Affairs Committee. This committee as well approved a resolution a few months ago which proposes sanctions on Ethiopian government. Linda Thomas Greenfield, US representative at UN, released a statement a few hours ago. US State Department African chapter, Africa Bureau, also called for stopping of war. EU's Joseph Borrell, Antonio Guterres' spokesperson as well. So you see that several EU, US and UN officials in the last 48 hours issued statements calling upon the parties to immediately stop war in Ethiopia. Is it due to escalation in fighting? Is it due to fear that there could be urban combat? Large number of civilians could be killed because fighting is approaching Shire city. People are very impatient, some viewers, who says, Ajit, just speak about Shire, tell us that Shire is under ENDF. I won't waste even a minute after I get confirmation that Shire is under ENDF, EDF control. I won't waste a minute. I'll share it immediately with you, but so far I don't have such information. Either it is due to escalation in fighting, which could lead to large number of civil casualties, or these people want to support TPLF-led Tigray regional government, because obviously on different fronts Tigray forces are coming under pressure. If Shire falls, it will have serious repercussions for the presence of Tigray forces in areas close to Takase, to the right bank of Takase. That is why a campaign is being launched to stop the war. Whatever the reason is, we are seeing a new campaign, which is so far limited to statements. Will these officials keep on issuing statements, or will statements be followed by actions? That is the most important point. We have been seeing statements for months. Even two bills are pending, which were passed by relevant committees at US Senate and US House. The bills S3199, HR6600, both propose sanctions on Ethiopian, Eritrean governments and other parties as well to the conflict. But no progress so far. US is adopting, it has adopted carrot and stick policy. Can this policy work to convince Ethiopian federal government to resume talks with Tigray regional government? I think next 1 week is very crucial. Next week, very crucial. In this week, there will be some sort of engagement between Tigray regional government and Ethiopian federal government, diplomatic engagement. Otherwise, we could see more talk of sanctions on Ethiopian government. Eritrea is not under pressure, because today Eritrean embassy in the US lashed out at US and EU that they are backing TPLF, they want to resuscitate TPLF. So Eritrean economy is also in a better shape than Ethiopian economy. PM Abiy's government is under pressure. Thank you for watching.